All right. How's everybody doing tonight? I guess I'll be the moderator or the host of today's event. This is the Walker Roundtable. My name is Ryan Walker. We can go around and introduce ourselves. The point of this podcast, or I guess this YouTube channel, is to discuss the world from the views and the perspectives of strong black men, family black men, we feel like the voices are kind of getting lost. So let's go around. Let's just introduce ourselves from top to bottom. And we have next.
Who's next? Maybe I'll go next.
Okay.
So I'm Jeffrey, aka Bobby, and the oldest son. And then I think the next, who do I see next? I see my dad next. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Jeffrey Walker Sr., and I'm all of these guys' dad.
All right, and saving the best for last, I'm
Okay.
Justin Walker, the youngest, um, and I'm glad to be here with my brothers and my dad. Good to have y'all had this conversation today.
Good to see you all. Yeah.
Excellent. So,
Yeah, you go.
with that being said, there's a bunch of topics. I think that we're coming off of Father's Day weekend, and it's something that was posed to me from both friends and family, and this is the topic that I want to pose to you all. And we can go in no specific order. And the topic is: Are Black fathers taken for granted in Black families? Is this a symptom of the majority culture within our country pushing for a divide and conquer strategy for our generational dysfunction as African Americans in this diaspora that we live in? So, what do y'all think about that? I'm a father. Daddy's a father. My father's a father. Daddy. Bobby, you're a father, and Justin, you're a son, but you're an uncle as well. What do you all think?
Who wants to go first? I got some opinions,
Go
but
first.
I'll go first.
Yeah, go first.
I look at it two ways because you guys are single, and I've been married now 42 years to your mother. And very seldom do you see a family unit that's together that long with the same husband and wife in the household. And I think as time has passed, I've seen a lot of breakups in Black families, and it's due to a lot of reasons. Economics is probably the top reason. Um, Different interests. Folks grow apart because either their careers drift them apart. Um, Politics has a lot to do with it, I think, because I think the way that some single, and this points to you guys, Bobby and Ryan, where you may get caught in the court system with kids and child support and things like that. That drives a family literally apart on a lot of levels. And
Mhm.
so your value is extreme on one end, but I think it's somehow sacrificed on another end, if you get my meaning. So with me personally, looking at, how I've had my struggles in life, raising three men and all of the struggles with jobs, economics, politics on jobs, not so much the court system, but the way that society looks at Black men in family units. It was difficult. It was a struggle. It was something that I really had to stay focused, and I really had to stay prayed up, to make sure that you guys came out on a different side of the system, of stereotypes, and a lot of other things that just a lot of other variables that would hinder you from being successful. So that's kind of my take on what I see. And I don't know, well, I know your views in certain areas, but that's how I see things as far as how difficult it is to be a Black man growing up with responsibilities, trying to maintain a career, trying to maintain a family, and all of the things that kind of hold you back from doing those things successfully, especially right now, especially in this political environment, especially in this economic environment. So that's my little take on it.
Excellent, excellent. Anyone want to go next?
Yeah. Um, I like the point that you brought up, Daddy, when you talked about the possible barriers that would encourage a black man to be a father. Because when you talk about child support, when you talk about alimony and all of the drama that can come up from trying to do the right thing and trying to be a family man, um, with the because I honestly feel that there's a not only is there like a culture war against black men to kind of, destroy us in the media, destroy us, just, police brutality, just destroy our image in all sorts of ways. When you add on top of the fact when you're trying to do the right thing and trying to start a family the right way, there's all sorts of like landmines that you have to navigate with women, because a lot of the women have grown very, I'll say, rebellious against what God's intention was for the black family. Because when I see the women today, I believe a lot of women are brainwashed by, a type of feminism that isn't feminism at all. I feel like a lot of women are brainwashed by a type of misandry where, they don't necessarily want to be equal to to men. They want to be superior to men and they want to abuse that authority once they get it, in order to proclaim dominance over that man. Um, and I can talk about relationships, where I've seen it, um, but in a way, I feel like when you see the younger generation, who want to start a family or have thought about starting a family, like me, for instance, I see this and it discourages me. I'm like, well, look at what happened to my brothers and the things they're going through. I don't want to go through that, because, it's something that I wouldn't want to deal with ultimately. Have I wanted kids? Yes. Have I wanted to be a father? Yes, but it's looking more and more grim because when you talk about trying to find that woman, that can, balance you and be that pillar, in your family that can, protect you and your family in a situation where you may not be able to, do it all the time because like that's the woman's role. She's supposed to be the support when you're unable to be the head sometimes. Like, I mean, like everybody has their, periods when, they have to lean on somebody. And if you can't lean on that person, ultimately the family will, you know, crumble apart. And I feel like a lot of women are not built to do that these days. I feel like a lot of women, with the social media and the music and everything else, all the cultural influences that we see, a lot of women are preoccupied with trying to exert dominance over a man instead of trying to be in cohesive partnership with a man. And when I see that, it's like, why should I even attempt it? So like I think about that all the time. Mama she keeps asking me, Justin, when you gonna give me a grandbaby? And you might have to wait for that. You know. But that's how I see this generation right now. And with the way that it's going, I don't see any improvements. I don't see any like because I can point to I can point to a guy like Barack Obama or somebody like that can be a positive black male influence. I can't see that on the female side. Like
Mm.
who would you say is the black female role model that is encouraging young black women to be upright.
Well, I think one
What about
is like Nia Long. I mean, Beyonce is like the one that stands out, but I think Nia Long, who's not as like, I think she's amazing. But people like her. I mean, and it's not that many voices that's out there speaking positivity and truth. But what were you gonna say,
Because
Bobby?
I think when you think of like the most influential woman in the black community, it's probably Meg Thee Stallion.
Yeah, and then I mean, and you got Michelle Obama. I mean, let's not. Meg Thee Stallion is probably the one, City Girls, but Michelle Obama probably has that thing, and Oprah is less prominent now. She's more in the background with productions, but cool. But good take on that, man. Bobby, did you want to go? I mean, I got some dense stuff that I could pack in, but did you want to go first and have me give my Negro spiritual?
yeah,
At the
yeah, we'll wait
Well,
on that. No,
with Justin, let me just, you know, come back to Justin and then Bobby can go. Um, because I was doing some writing the other day about relationships, and it's something that today's woman is not like yesterday's woman, like your mother, right? Now, I've been married to your mother for 42 years, and when you meet a woman, I think there's three things that a woman should bring to the table, and a man too should bring to the table. And the first one is respect. And when I tie these three things together, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's like a circuit for relationships, like an electrical, think of it as an electrical circuit, right? That has three wires to it. All right. And if you break any one of these connections, the relationship ain't gonna work. Period. I don't care how good she looks. I don't care how much money she got. I don't care where her head is at. But if you have these three connections, if any one of these three connections is broken, it's time to walk away. And that goes for a man and a woman. So whoever listens to this, they will understand how relationships work. But the first one is respect. And what I mean by that, it could be respecting each other's opinions. Your opinions may be different, but you have to understand that way of thinking. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I still have my opinion. You got to respect that. The choices you make in life, it may be a simple choice as to what food you order in a restaurant, but you got to respect that choice because I like that. Respect things like, the position that you're in at home. When you're at home, you may like to do certain things, but you got to respect those choices. Your friends, you have to respect the fact that she may have friends, you have friends, and they're different, but you got to respect those choices. The next thing is love. It has to be unconditional. I think that if you're in a relationship with somebody, you'll feel that it's something inert, comes from within. If that love connection is broken, the relationship won't work. If that respect connection is broken, the relationship won't work. And the last thing is trust. I mean, you gotta trust the person, period. If you don't trust a person, the relationship won't work. If any one of these three things is severed, the circuit won't work. So think of it that way. And I just wanted to put that in because Justin said something about yesterday or today's woman as opposed to yesterday's woman, the values. I think that those three values have not changed. They won't change over time. It won't happen. But the way that society looks upon these three things has changed because now people will go along and say, I don't care. I'm resistant to being loved, and I don't have to respect you. So the mindset has changed. That's it. Go ahead, Bobby.
yeah, I mean it's hard to see through all of the challenges and all of the problems to end up seeing the good things about it. When I started thinking about this question, it was more of, do I really do I really care what society thinks at large about how I am as a father? Really, no, I don't. I think all I care about, there's only one person's opinion that I care about as far as how I am as a father, and it's the little girl in the room sleeping right now, right?
Hmm.
Thinks if she respects me as a father, if she understands the lengths to which I will go for her happiness, her safety, her well-being, then I couldn't care less who what anybody else thinks, right? So that's how I feel at my core, right? That's she's the only person that matters. And I think I approach fatherhood in that type of way, right? Every decision that I make is about her and for her future and for her presence, for her present. I try to be as present as I can when I'm with her. Um, now, y- somebody mentioned, I think it was Daddy, somebody mentioned the courts and um, when you're going through custody battles and you're going through a court system, you find out very quickly, no matter if you a black man, a white man, any type of man, that you start off as at a disadvantage, no matter what your reputation is, no matter how much um, evidence about you as a father you can bring to the table at the very beginning. You start off as um, disadvantaged, and you have a big uphill climb to prove that you are the type of parent that is necessary to be able to take care of a child, right? Um, and so I've always felt like that was, in my dealings with that situation, I always felt like that was an unfair thing, right? It felt like there was a bigger burden on the father in situations like that because I think automatically the court and many people outside of the court just think that fathers are um, not as capable of being parents and good parents as compared to the mother. And I think that's completely unfair. Now, granted, there's good parents, there's good fathers, there's bad fathers, just like there are good mothers and there are bad mothers. And we have been fortunate and blessed to have two good parents, right? Solid role models to help us become the people that we are today. But I think it's just, overall, I think society has done itself a disservice by automatically thinking that one gender can parent better than the other. I don't know how we combat that other than to say we, you know, work within our own lane, be great fathers to our own kids, and lead by example, right? I don't, I don't think that maybe I do, but in my mind, I don't. I don't think that I really try to put all of the things that I do and all, for my kid out there for everybody to see, right? All I do I'm there for her. And I think that setting that example is noticed by people, right? And I think that's something I would hope that everybody would do, every parent would do is just focus on your kid and that would get noticed by others. And then hopefully that would, that'll rub off on people and we would be able to build a society that's more um, understanding and more grateful to quality parents and quality fathers. So that was one of the things that I wanted to mention because it popped in my head. The other thing was, so I was at church the last week on Father's Day, and I started looking around. A couple of people said, "Happy Father's Day." They talking about barbecues, and they gave me a koozie. One of them things called those
Oh yeah, what? We keep it nice and cool or
yeah,
hot.
so he started thinking real quick, like, okay, I get a koozie for my can of soda, and and then a month ago or a couple months ago, whenever Mother's Day was, a month ago, I was at church and they like giving out flowers and they got
Yeah,
all this stuff is real big.
It's
you
not
get
an equal thing.
No, it's real big. and commercially is big, and the mother is celebrating. And because I was at church and I was thinking about this a little bit, not don't get me wrong, I'm not bitter. I wasn't bitter in church, but I was just saying it got me thinking that even in the Bible, right? Of course, men are most prominent in the Bible. Back, in the time that it was being put together, our society was different, right? So there were, of course, strong women in that time too. Um, but as far as fathers and mothers in the Bible, one of the things that I was thinking about was Jesus's father and mother were depicted differently in the Bible, right? If you think about Joseph, do you hear anything more than Joseph's role as part of the nativity and maybe early on in Jesus' life when he was at the temple, right? That's about all you really know about Joseph. At least that's all I know about Joseph. But Mary is revered as Jesus's mother, right? And in certain um, parts of Christianity, folks, I don't want to say they pray to Mary, but they respect her as his mother and hold her in high esteem, right? So she should be up there, in my opinion. But we also should recognize the fathers as well. So I don't know how far back this goes in the unequal view, but I think that it's something that I don't know, maybe we can just change and appreciate. Obviously we appreciate you, Daddy, and we appreciate our father and our grandfathers and all the men that have been in our lives. And I think that's just something that we need to continue to do. Um, what was one other thing that I wanted to come to me? Anyway, oh, Justin, don't I would say Ryan and I we dealt with some unfortunate situations when it came to relationships and custody situations and things like that, right? But at the end of the day, I would imagine Ryan would do it all over again to make sure that we ultimately we became fathers, and that's the most important thing, right? So I would do it all over again, go through that BS of a court system and everything else again, if it meant that I was with my kid at the end of ultimately at the end of the day, right? Also don't want to, and I try to tell myself this all the time, right? I don't want to paint everybody with a big broad brush and say just because this one situation happened with this one woman or this few situations happen with certain women that means that all women are like that, right? Just like we in this, us as a family, we have shown that we are good men. Right, there are good women out there too, willing to get with people, get with good men, raise a good family, be there, right? And we definitely know that, right? That's our mama is an example of that, right? So I think that there are still people like that. There's still women out there. It's just maybe it's a little bit more difficult to find in this day and age. We still gotta. I think it's worth trying, and I don't want to have our mistakes and our experiences negatively impact you and your outlook and your future and your the way that you approach things. Approach it more carefully, hopefully, right? But don't hopefully don't be closed off on it, right? Completely.
Honestly.
All right.
You, but
Excellent. Well, I think so I'll take it from the African American Black diaspora sort of perspective, right? And I think that Black fathers, in this day and age, in this day and culture, I think we are taken for granted by the prevailing culture. But I think that, and I don't want this to be too much of a thesis or too much of a preachy sort of response, but I think that in my view, it's a lot different. We see this culture war, and especially in our culture between black men and black women, it's a huge divide. It's generational, right? I think that if you go back to slavery, it starts there. why were we brought over here as slaves, right? People think, oh well, it's you know, they were just such bad people. And yes, they were terrible people that brought us over here, right? But they recognized something in Africans that we were agricultural geniuses and they brought us over to build the land and colonize the land and they took our spirit away and they wanted to keep dysfunction as the generations happened. So then when you had the Emancipation Proclamation, and then you had Reconstruction right after that. There were, I mean, you're talking about the birth of Black Wall Street, Rosewood, Third Ward, Houston, Fifth Ward, Houston. Um, Even certain areas like um, Raleigh, North Carolina, or South Carolina, whatever it is. But you have a lot of these places where you have the 40 acres and a mule, and black families were able to put their skill sets and their monies together and create an ecosystem and stay married, right? Without any sort of influences from the outside, from any other culture, even the majority culture. And you look forward towards the Harlem Renaissance. Marcus Garvey came into play. He wanted to create this whole thing where we can open up the migration channels between the Americas and Africa, right? And we can do that. We can be one unified diaspora like the Europeans or the Asians, or even even folks from South America they're so unified together, and we can create a culture that generationally promotes wealth building. And so you go forward and you start looking at these different iterations of, like mass incarceration, social welfare being a program that helped poverty-stricken black families, but these women could only be in there with their kids. It was a situation where the black men couldn't have it, but then poor whites, and let's just say, uh, uh, what is it? West Virginia, they can have a family unit and they can build off of the social welfare and scale up, but we couldn't do that. So I always tell people that, when you look at the crack epidemic in the 80s, that was a situation that they were looking to try to balance the books, and they did it to destabilize our neighborhoods, right? And so now when you have these situations where you have this culture war, and you look at who controls social media, who controls the media, it's not our culture. So if they can sit there and they can say, hey, black woman, you need to think of yourself a certain way, right? You're above this man. You don't have to respect him. You can do whatever, say whatever, be whatever, right? And then on top of that, we're gonna, from a social economic standpoint, we're gonna open everything for you. We're gonna focus on you and give you every opportunity to be educated, every opportunity to be a part of DEI, affirmative action. We're gonna open the lanes up for just one portion of our culture and then create two subcultures. So then now you have the African American man that's being pushed down, they're being propped up, and then they're believing this. And so what's happening, I think, for me, from my perspective, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that's pushing dysfunction without them even trying. It's like, okay, well, you have a lot of women that I think believe this idealism, that step into this idealism, and they think of black men as a bank. They think of us just as provision and protection and for procreation. And we don't have feelings. We don't have whatever. We're not even really people. And we only are people when we're in alignment. I don't think this is with every woman, but I think that this is something that's really key in our core. It's a toxicity that's in our culture. And then I think a lot of that perspective is ratified. It's codified by the court system. I've been in it, right? So you might have a sister that displays all these different toxicities. She might be just a bad person, might be an unfair parent, right? Just unfair. It's just all the way unfair. And then because you're a man, you could be the greatest dad, show up fair. You're not going to get a fair ruling. You're not asking for a ruling in your favor. You're just not going to get a fair ruling. The time and money is going to go to her. She could just be a totally unbalanced person, and then that behavior is passed along to friends, and then unfortunately it's passed along to the generation that follows. So, and I think that fathers, and then fathers are just used to bankroll the entire operation, and we're looked at as, well, he needs to be there. We're entitled to, we're not going to celebrate him. It's a thankless job, but he needs to always be there. And I think that what you said is good, Bobby. We really the only way to fix it is to be self-aware, understand that they're playing chess, not checkers. We need to think elevated. We need to focus on God. And once we do that and we focus on our families and we have conversations like this, we'll be able to multiply the effect. But I think this episode is going to be coming to an end. Looks like we're running out of time, and we can pick up on the next one if y'all want to keep going. So thanks everybody, and we'll pick this up in a little bit.